Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast. That is, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back on Polls You Go with Elliot Kaufman and Joe Sternberg. Joe, let's turn to Pete Hegseth. He's the nominee for Defense Department, and the stories over the weekend emerged about a settlement he made of a sexual assault accusation going back to 2017. A woman at an event in Monterey, California, made an accusation that Hegseth had assaulted her. There was a police report investigation, but no charges brought. Nonetheless, we now know that Hegseth did pay her to keep silent, signed a non-disclosure agreement. The lawyer said this case is he said, she said. Hegseth says it was all consensual. She says it was not. We'll probably never know the truth of that. I mean, this is not great in and of itself, obviously, to have that accusation out there. But my question is, why are we getting reports that the Trump transition team didn't know this? It would seem to be a colossal failure of vetting on their part, or perhaps lack of honesty by Hegseth. I mean, one of the standard questions you get from any kind of government job like this is that's subject to Senate confirmation is there anything we should know that could present a problem with your nomination? A sexual assault charge with a non-disclosure agreement qualifies under any definition of the answer to that. And I mean, it isn't entirely clear from the reporting what Hegseth told them and what the campaign knew. I assume we'll find that out. But it's just hard to believe that they didn't know this.
So it's certainly a big omission by Pete Hegseth himself. It's the sort of thing where, if you've been dishonest about that sort of thing during the job interview phase when he was talking to the transition team, I mean, in any other private sector job, that would potentially endanger your position even after you've gotten the job offer if your employer finds that out. I think it also raises questions about the Trump transition team because, I mean, one of the notable things that's been going on the past couple of weeks is that these appointments have come out very quickly. And so you would hope that that has been with enough time, even starting before the election, to have properly vetted, but now we're wondering about that. And, I think there's a bigger point, too, about what Trump is trying to accomplish with all of these nominations, including some of the crazier ones. I mean, I think that he has concluded that a big part of what he needs to do is thoroughly shake up these big bureaucracies. And he's bringing in all of these unconventional outsider appointments, whether it's some of the national defense folks that we've been talking about today or some of the other policy appointments that he's brought in other areas where it's almost as if the target is much shaking up the bureaucracies within the government as it is actually implementing policy changes. And a lot of these bureaucracies need to be shaken up, including the Department of Defense, the military. I think that there's a lot of room for that. But that does mean that you are walking this tightrope because that kind of transformation requires enormous amounts of political capital to stand up against the inevitable backlash. And you just can't do that if you have this kind of cloud hanging over you of this kind of scandal lurking there.
Elliot, I've spent the weekend emailing our colleagues who are women and men, just so what do you think of this Hegseth news? And it's very interesting. The women are not pleased with the news, but the overall conclusion seems to be consensus that this isn't going to hurt Hegseth that much because there's a certain discount of this kind of he said, she said accusation after the Me Too movement. And then Donald Trump has been, himself accused of these things. So it's probably not going to matter. The honesty question with the campaign and the competence question with the campaign is another story. There's also the fact, simply, and you're going to get the last word, that there's a lot of Republican anxiety about Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, RFK Jr. at HHS. They may become the bigger targets. That might help Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard fly under the radar.
It very well could. And I think in the case of Pete Hegseth, Republicans, what you hear is he believes the right things. So even if the resume is a little thin and we have concerns on other issues, he's basically in the right place and therefore we can work with him. On some of those others, you don't have that Even on Tulsi Gabbard, you don't have that. And so if Republicans have to pick their battles, Hegseth is one where they might say, let it go.
In the hierarchy of Republican rejection of Trump nominees, I put Matt Gaetz top, RFK Jr. second, Tulsi Gabbard third so far, and then Pete Hegseth perhaps fourth. Then Kirsty Noem at Homeland Security fifth, but that's more of a whether she's experienced enough for the job. But that probably won't matter. Okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Elliot. Thank you all for listening. We're here every day on Potomac Watch, and look for more Trump nominees all this week. Thanks for listening.